immigration reform is something that is trying to be included into the budget proposal, but the parliamentarian decided not to include what their first proposal was. Now, Senator Dick Durbin is scrambling around and trying to include another type of immigration reform policy into this budget proposal reform bill. Republicans are completely against this, but they're trying to find ways that this Congress can come together to not only include reform bills, but also to be able to try to include it in something that's never been done before. Very, very confusing. Wadi, share with us how this process works, and is this a possible way for them to include immigration reform policy into this congressional budget proposal?
Yeah, JP, the reason why we're having this discussion is because the reality of the Senate is that it's currently still split 50-50, and the Democrats don't have the 60 votes. The Republicans aren't adding enough of those to pass immigration reform through what would be called regular order, right? How legislation is typically passed through the Senate. So they are looking at this reconciliation process, which is a process that actually allows them to pass budget-related measures with only a simple majority. Now, the problem is there that in order for this to be budget-related, the parliamentarian has to essentially give it her blessing and say that, yes, this is related to the budget. It is something that qualifies for a simple majority versus that 60 typical vote count that is required. Now, many people are accusing Democrats of using this as an excuse to not work with the Republicans, but Democrats are pointing to the fact that on immigration reform, Republicans have not been the most welcoming party on this issue. I think there's a real battle up ahead because in order, the first hurdle is going to be getting an approval from a parliamentarian on a new version that they are working on. The second hurdle is to even get some more of the middle of the road Democrats on board, specifically Kristen Sinema, senator from Arizona, and John Manchin, senator from West Virginia, two old school sort of blue dog Democrats who haven't said that they would fully support this, even if the parliamentarian approved immigration reforms being included in the reconciliation process.
JP, but do you think this will actually happen? We have seen this many times. Like, we're here once more.
I heard one commentator say that the Democrats have fumbled the bag on this, specifically because they made so many promises, but it's not the first time we've been here with both political parties. You know what really, really looks bad is that the last administration did provide an immigration reform policy that had more likelihood of passing than what they're currently trying to do, which completely goes against working and reaching across the aisle, which is what the hope should be for immigration reform, for longevity, for sustainability, to be able to say that we are truly trying to fix immigration reform policy, not just for one political party, but that both of them can work together to really try to find solutions. The Trump administration did present immigration reform proposals that included a pathway to citizenship, similar to what we're seeing right now for DACA recipients, for TPS holders, agricultural workers. But one of the biggest things that he never put his foot down on, specifically what he wanted in that immigration reform proposal, was his border wall. And let's be really, really clear. Over these past 3 decades, both Republicans and Democrats have been in pro when talking about immigration reform for the militarization of the border and a border wall. It's just, it hasn't been as publicized because what did Trump do? He divided the country on a very hot topic issue, specifically talking to a specific voting demographic when it came to immigration, and used the border wall as a crux in his, not only in his speeches, but in his messaging and his sound bites to definitely say to a voting demo, I'm here, I'm going to try to implement these laws, and I'm going to build this border wall. We all know he wasn't able to. What this new administration is trying to do, look really, really clearly in the immigration proposal that they're trying to propose, because it's not just all pro-immigrant. There are a lot of addendums in there that'll definitely be here for decades to come when it comes to private corporations funding, whether it's the jail cells that continuously grow year after year. We're seeing it right now with the asylum cases that we see. Overnighters that are coming, and definitely also not only funding this, but also funding more budget for what many people have been asking for a long time, which is that our CBP agents have the necessary technology to fight against the huge drug war that they're fighting against at our borders on a daily basis.
I think just going and adding to some of the stuff that JP and Wadi said, I think it's just sad the fact that it is a very complicated issue in terms of like with the numbers, right? Like you're still in a divided situation where you kind of become you hit a wall every time you try to figure out or come to a solution, come to like getting the right votes and the right numbers on the side of towards an immigration reform. I definitely think in some way we're back to square one, but with a lot more towards to look forward to, right? But it's hard to forget that in the last 3 administrations, we've seen children in cages, we've had families being separated, and now we have agents on horseback, kind of like not being compassionate to the refugees or the immigrants trying to cross the border. So I definitely think, like I said before, it's a broken system that we need to address, but it's just trying to find the way or maybe the loophole to get it done. Now, if it's through the budget or, just taking it to the floor, it's just frustrating to see how it's so hard to get it across, or getting both aisles to kind of come to some decent agreement on this. And it kind of happens to become a 4-year discussion voting topic, right? And that's what we're trying to avoid, that it shouldn't just be discussed every time if someone's up for re-election or every time we're going through elections. It has to become like a constant discussion and just insisting and trying to find a way to get it done somehow.
Thank you, Pamela. Because it's super important, especially for us, like the Latino community that you cover every day. We want to ask you how important is this topic of immigration and getting the right immigration reform for our Latino community?
I think, like I said, I think it's the greatest challenge is finding that balance between being a compassionate, country that we historically have been, and the fact that we need, a lot of the labor force and all that stuff. It's necessary, and it's kind of like economically dependent on this in a lot of terms. So a lot of people are aware of the benefits of it. I just think it's trying to find that balance between getting both of these decision makers, parties, to come to something that's well balanced, and I think it always becomes, sadly, a very polarizing and a very political discussion. Instead of being like humanitarian crisis that we need to address immediately, it kind of becomes a divisive topic that we continue to discuss, with those terms in mind.
Right.
Oh, yeah, Outside the Box fan. You have made it to the end of the video. With that being said, I have a very, very important message. Subscribe to this YouTube channel because you can get all our episodes, all our commentary, all the interviews, all the latest. Smash that like button. Leave us comments, because we're going to be interacting with you guys. See you guys soon.